Hello, my name is Jeff Bost, and I'm here with neurosurgeon Dr. Joseph Maroon. As you know, both Dr. Maroon and I are consultants to ACTIVZ and been so for a number of years. And I can't tell you how excited we are with the introduction of the new product introduced by ACTIVZ recently. Uh, NitroxPro is very exciting. It'll have significant benefits and that we've not really covered with our current products of length, Optimen, and genomics. It works in a different way. The idea of nitric oxide we'll be discussing quite a lot, and also some scientific terms that we hope that you'll understand because this is a product that most likely will be around for a long time. It's very beneficial, and I think we'll find it very important for people who are going to start taking it. So we'll get started here. And Dr. Maroon, if you could just give us the background on what nitric oxide is and why it's so important.
Absolutely, Jeff, and it's great to be with you again and active and the active group. Nitric oxide is what's known as a signaling molecule. And interestingly, in 1998, three individuals got the Nobel Prize for discovering that nitric oxide, which is a gas, penetrates, made by one cells, penetrates membranes to activate other cells. So it's a signaling molecule. It's a chemical messenger, crucial in the proper functionings of the body. It's critical for the health of blood vessel dilation or expansion, for neurotransmission, and also to enhance immune function. So it's referred to as the endothelium-derived relaxing factor in the cardiovascular system because of these effects. So what is the endothelium? And the endothelium represents a single layer of cells that lines the blood vessels in every blood vessel in our body. It's a barrier between the blood vessel itself, the vessel wall, and in the brain, for instance, the blood-brain barrier in the entrance into the brain or the heart or other organs. The nitric oxide signals the endothelium to enter or dilate or open, acting as a vasodilator, meaning it relaxes the smooth muscle and allows more blood to flow through the blood vessel. Enhancing blood flow is a hugely positive thing, of course, and it produces substance that prevents blood clots. So the better your endothelium, the healthier your endothelial lining, the less clotting you're going to have, ensuring smooth blood flow. And it facilitates the exchange of nutrients like oxygen and waste products in and out between the blood and tissues. So a healthy endothelium allows adequate amounts of nitric oxide, which is critical for endothelial function, for cardiovascular health. But likewise, because strokes are related to vascular health, it can help prevent strokes, cardiovascular disease, hardening of the arteries, which is calcification of the endothelium or lining of the blood vessels. And also, if the blood vessel constricts or is smaller, it takes more pressure of the heart to increase the blood pressure. Hence you get hypertension.
Dr. Maroon, I'd like to just jump in here. This is such an important slide and such an important thing what you said relative to the critical benefit of nitric oxide in our cardiovascular system. And that'll be a story that we're going to say multiple times throughout this talk, how important nitric oxide as a signaling molecule to dilate blood vessels is so important. Think about all the diseases. The number one killer in the world is cardiovascular disease, stroke. All of these things are related to blood flow problems. Alzheimer's disease is thought to have a relationship to low blood flow, peripheral vascular disease. So the idea of something like nitric oxide being so important to keep the endothelium healthy and prevent disease as we age or at any age is so important. And I just can't stress that enough.
Well, that's why the Nobel Prize was given to the investigators who discovered it, Jeff.
I agree. And this slide, I'd just like to jump in before you do, Dr. Maroon. I think it's so important to talk about different percentages of blood supply to different organs. And we've talked about this a lot, Dr. Maroon, how the brain is only about 3 pounds, and yet it's consuming about 15% of the blood supply. And how disproportionate that is because the metabolism of the blood of the brain is so rapid. And so if your blood is impeded, if your blood vessels are narrowed and you're not getting the blood to the brain, you're going to have consequences. If your blood is not going to the heart, if it's not going to the muscular skeletal system. Imagine if you had blockage in your leg and you were trying to walk up a hill. You would get claudication, which is basically pain from walking and demanding more blood to your leg. So the blood vessels are so critical to keep the blood flowing to these important organs. And anything that we do that decreases the opening of those blood vessels, which is basically our whole lifestyle of bad food, lack of exercise, lack of sleep, everything we do sort of is against that. Nitric oxide becomes more and more important. And of course, as we are under stress, we don't exercise, we're under severe concentration and coordination all the time. If we're not at a maximal blood flow, this is going to suffer. And Dr. Maroon, this is something you may remember.
I sure do, Jeff. This depicts Jeff and I operating on a patient a few years back, and stress, concentration, coordination are all factors that actually can deplete nitric oxide and create a lot of problems with the vascular system as well. And there were a couple times where I was really stymied and I was operating and had to take a break, and actually would walk up and down the steps at the hospital to increase my heart rate, to actually activate my nitric oxide synthase that we're going to talk about in a minute, to increase the blood flow to my brain as well as my heart, and able to focus much better afterwards. So personal experience with this in the past, using nitric oxide, and also eating beets, which again we'll talk about, has been a very big help for me in my profession.
And just to summarize, all of these conditions are enhanced with nitric oxide. And Dr. Maroon, you're a living example of someone who exercises and needs that blood to your muscles and organs in order to enhance your ability to be in triathletes and other exercise. This is what it's all about. If you're able to increase the blood supply to an organ, for example, muscles, you're able to enhance your exercise performance. Same thing with erectile performance, brain function, blood vessel, heart, immune, to aid wound healing. And Dr. Maroon, you've discussed quite often about the benefits of hyperbaric oxygen to get more oxygen to a wound. Well, that only works if the blood is flowing to that area. So how critical that is to have for wounds to have your blood vessels working properly, and of course lowering blood pressure. Lowering blood pressure is now the #1 cardiovascular disease in the world. There are more people in the entire history of the world that now have high blood pressure, both treated and untreated. So, Dr. Maroon, I'm sure that in your lifetime, you've made more nitric oxide than anyone I can ever think about.
Well, what you're referring to, Jeff, is lifestyle. And in terms of lifestyle, physical aerobic activity is really a key part, and also diet. So maybe we can go forward and talk a little bit about diet as well, and how food and exercise increases nitric oxide and reduces high blood pressure and enhances the things that we're showing here.
Absolutely. And this is really a critical slide. And Dr. Maroon, if you could go over this, it just points to the fact of how cardiovascular diseases and diseases of aging are all related to blood vessels.
Yeah. And again, it's a natural phenomena that nitric oxide decreases with age, because our endothelium tends to get clogged up, inflamed, and damaged by unhealthy lifestyle factors, such as lack of exercise, such as a Western diet, and not getting enough appropriate nutrients that we'll touch upon in just a minute. So as we age, some of these problems are a concomitant: high blood pressure, impaired blood circulation to the heart and brain. It's natural, in quotes, natural, but it can be delayed with appropriate interventions that we're going to discuss.
Absolutely. And the brain function, of course, is really critical. We talked earlier how conditions like Alzheimer's disease are related to low blood supply and low circulation to deep parts of the brain. This is something that I'd like to talk about. It's somewhat complicated, but it's really important to think about the new product, Nitrox, how it works. And I think this is something that's going to be important to our distributors, because how it works is very critical, because there's two ways that nitric oxide is produced. One way is through the food that we eat, and that is, you already described one of the most important products, and that is beets. Beets are high in a precursor to nitric oxide that is subsequently converted into nitric oxide and used throughout the body. So beets provide us a product called nitrates, which through the activity of the microbiome, and this is something many of you have heard of before, the microbiome, how important it is with links improving our gut microbiome. Well, believe it or not, there's a microbiome in our mouth. The bacteria in our mouth are available to convert this nitrates, which are found in beets, into nitric oxide. Also the stomach. So both in the mouth and the stomach microbiome is critical to the function and production of nitric oxide from foods like beets. And then there's a second pathway, which is actually more important, because there's an enzyme that converts a amino acid called L-arginine into nitric oxide. So this is a second pathway. So this has to tell you how important it is for the body to produce this nitric oxide. It has two separate pathways, one through the use of food like beets and through the mouth to digest it with our microbiome, and also by using an amino acid called L-arginine to convert it into an amino acid that turns into nitric oxide. So these are very critical pathways in our body. And what's interesting, and what we're going to talk about, is the fact that Nitrox works on both pathways. So Nitrox works to activate nitric oxide through both of these pathways, which is very unique, and I think something that we need to talk about. So this is just a slide that tells us how the breakdown occurs in our mouth. You eat the beet or some other food product that has nitrate, it converts it through the stomach and the mouth into nitric acid. So if you have poor mouth health or poor stomach health, the conversion to nitric acid may be delayed and it may not be as effective. And that's why it's so important. As I said, Nitrox has two pathways. And this is some of the foods that you can consume that also can increase your nitrate, including beets. Unfortunately, excuse me, Western society does not eat these very often. Dr. Maroon, I know you eat them very often, but how often does the average person eat a radish or even char or other things that are on this list? It's very rare. Our number one vegetable in the United States is French fries. That are potatoes. So we know that not many people in Western societies are eating these types of food, and therefore the pathway that takes food into nitric oxide is generally depleted. And that, again, is the need for a dietary supplement. And this is the second pathway that uses another amino acid, what I described as L-arginine, and it is also converted from citrulline. So citrulline is another amino acid that L-arginine is produced from. So as I said earlier, another amino acid produces nitric oxide, and that's L-arginine, but a precursor to that is citrulline. And as I'm going to say a little later, and Dr. Maroon is going to say a little later, L-citrulline is in the Nitrox product, as well as the last statement I said about beets and its benefits are in the new product. So these are critical pathways that are covered by both of the ingredients in the new Nitrox product. So again, what is it? What are the benefits of nitric oxide? It's a powerful vasodilator. It opens the blood vessels, as Dr. Maroon described. And it also improves the function of the endothelium, or the layer within all blood vessels throughout the body. So in summary, in addition to nitrates being found in vegetables and leafy vegetables and beets, the second pathway is the use of the amino acid L-arginine by converting citrulline to produce nitric oxide. This is complicated stuff, I agree, but it's important to realize that two pathways are needed to make, they're part of the nitric oxide production, and both of them are found in Nitrox product. So Dr. Maroon, do you want to just go over some of these things? You talked about lifestyle and things we could do to try to improve our nitric oxide level.
Yes, absolutely, Jeff. I think taking L-arginine or L-citrulline supplements, which are precursors to nitric oxide, have some value, no question. And natural eating the right diet, however, is probably the best way to get these precursors. And then, as Jeff has mentioned, the NitroxPro that has been formulated by ACTIVZ combines the best of both. It has the beets and as a powerful precursor to nitric oxide, as well as other components that we're going to discuss in just a minute.
So the benefits of beets, Dr. Maroon, you just mentioned it. What are the benefits of beets?
Well, basically, what they do is they increase, as we've said, nitric oxide production. And if you do that, it increases blood flow, reduces blood pressure, increases perfusion of the brain and the heart, so that with the brain, there can be enhanced cognition, or at least enhanced brain processing of information and cognition. And there's a reduced risk of stroke and heart attacks.
And of course, you can testify to the fact that it improves exercise performance. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, nitric oxide was one of the things you had in your backpack and decided to carry to the top of the mountain because it increased your blood circulation.
That's exactly right. And if you increase the blood circulation, you're going to increase the oxygen uptake. And as you said, the brain utilizes up to 20% of the oxygen that combines with glucose to make ATP, which is energy.
Yeah. So beets have had a long history of being studied. This is a study that looked at peripheral vascular disease, which means decreased circulation in the legs. And it's a common thing, often associated with cigarette smoking. And if you have pain in your legs after you walk, in this case, only a few minutes, that's a diagnosis of peripheral vascular disease. This study gave people with that condition beets and found that they were able to walk longer and had less pain when they walked the distance. Again, showing how dilating and improving blood vessel function increases circulation to those muscles, and therefore they can function better. And so this is a highly important study that talks about how blood vessels are critical to our muscular function. And this is talking about another study that uses beet juice, which is just another form of beets and a producer of nitric oxide. And this study showed how it improved older people, as even as given as a supplement, generally improved their cognitive performance. So there was an improvement in their brain function with the use of nitric oxide, which is really critical as we get older, since nitric oxide naturally diminishes in production by our body as we get older. And there have been other studies that showed increased blood flow to the brain and other positive physiologic effects throughout the body. So now we get to the NitroxPro. This is the new product. It's an exciting product, and it has all those ingredients we talked about. Beets, it has the L-citrulline, it has another product called retinosides, which are another natural supplement that's actually found from citric products like oranges and lemons that can dilate blood vessels. All of these are part of the pathway to produce nitric oxide. So L-citrinine, we've talked about, is an amino acid. It's part of the L-arginine pathway to produce nitric oxide. And as it does that, that increases our blood vessel function and relaxes blood vessel. And retinosides also are an antioxidant and a plant-based flavonoid, which has the property to increase circulation. So retinoids are antioxidants. They protect cell membranes. They reduce blood cell fragility. There's lots of benefits proven with this antioxidant. They're known to be in supplement form, which is also in the Nitrox product. And beets, we know it's a superfood. It has so many positive benefits. If you want to test for your nitrate level, you can do that. There's a very simple saliva test that can be done. You can test before and then test after you take the dietary supplement to see if it benefits you. So in general, just to summarize, nitric oxide is a primary factor for vascular health. It depletes as we get older. Poor lifestyle, poor diet choices are all the things, smoking are all the things that can diminish nitric oxide even further. And then superfoods like beets, L-citrinine, and retinosides all have been shown to improve nitric oxide production. So we're excited to be part of this new product launch. Dr. Maroon, I'm sure you are as well, and are looking forward to being in Cancun for the next meeting when we discuss this.